just a distance from the rehearsal, then I hear this piano, man. I said, now who's this?
I'm the only one who plays piano in Mamelodi. Come on,
Hey, what piano so man? Yeah. Hey, go to piano man.
This is the Hustlers Corner.
Hustlers and squatters, brothers and sisters from all over the world, welcome to Johannesburg. This is DJ Smooth, and we are on the Hustlers Corner. First up, let's go straight to that shop sign. On the count of 1, 2, 3, click that like button. Click. Thank you very much, guys. Click the subscription button. But I was looking at the percentages of people who have switched on their notification bell, and it's only 10%. Guys, come on. Please go to the links in the co-host with Penuel, the Black Pen, and we also have got real estate opportunities with Ekasi Noble Property Development. There is a link there that takes you to the Ekasi Noble Property Development platform. Just click a link there if you're a potential investor or you probably would like to own a home around Bearsnodia, around Randfontein. There's some investment opportunities right there. Talking about our African history, I'm very excited because I've got this book in front of me and I've got a legend who's written this book. This person is very multi-talented because one of my role models. When you guys see me doing all sorts of different things, not only just music, I branch out into all these different things because of people like him. This one is called The Reintroduction to African History, Know Thyself, by the legendary pianist, musician, producer, entrepreneur, father, Kwaito jazz legend, African activist, and author. He says this book is deliberately centered on Kemet, ancient Black Egypt, and for that the work should not be misconstrued for the author's oblivion or ignorance to the rest of the Africa or African history. In Kemet, Dr. Don Laka is gravitated to posturing anti-European epistemological hegemony stance to engage in an intellectual psychological warfare in this epic African restorative struggle in the area of knowledge, with ancient Egypt as the rallying point so as to make it to Africa what Greece is to Europe, as in the words of Sheikh Anta Diop. I'm very excited because he's quoting some names that Mkhuluntsigiza was talking about as well. He's conscious. He's also one of the instrumental people to the birth of the Kwaito music. He's also another business partner in Kalawa. He's one of the people that started Kalawa. I don't know if he's still involved in Kalawa, but he's a South African legend, and he's actually even an icon now because it's 50 years in the music industry. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome not only the legendary, but the iconic Dr. Don Laka. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. and thanks to meet you after such a long time.
I haven't seen you in many years. I'm so happy,
man,
sir.
it's incredible to be finally meeting you again.
Yes, sir.
And that's before the beard and the locks and stuff.
And that's why I'm excited that you wrote this book a few years ago on the African narrative. Maybe before we get into your story, let's talk about the inspiration to write this book and what this book is all about.
Well, the introduction to African history, it's been researched it took me 30 years of real research. When I'm talking about real research, meaning going to dig out our real history. You know, I mean, growing up in the apartheid South Africa, it was not easy to get the real true story. You know, the books that we had in libraries and everywhere were all of them actually giving credence and everything to the white people in South Africa.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have history. I mean, we've never taught history. So I wanted to find out what is the real history of an African. So I started going to the museums and the places. The places are there, the museums are there. Museums, by the way, in Europe are full of probably 80% of African history. If you take that away, those museums will shut down. So once I started going to those places, then I realized how rich our history is. So that started 30 years ago. And before I wrote this book. And, I needed to see these things with my own two eyes. So I had to go into the museums, travel to the places. I mean, I've been to Kemet, or Egypt, as we call it today, about 4 times. Seeing with my own eyes these things written in stone. In all the tombs, you can see all these things. And to me, it came as a shocker. And, I never could actually be the same person I was after seeing these things, that our ancestors created what we call civilization today.
So they did a good job in using movies to brainwash us to believe.
Well, the Hollywood people, obviously, I'm one of these people who, when I look at it, I actually laugh at it. But because the real people who created civilization are Africans. But you know what? We mustn't forget that Kemet itself lost power 600 BCE. So most of the stuff that the movies are trying to show you is after Africans have lost power there. So they're just digging up all, the foreigners who came in and showing you that these are the people from Egypt. Well, in a way, it is truth, but it's not the correct way to say that these are the people that started civilization. By the time they came in, there was nothing developed now in Egypt. It all, the civilization has reached its zenith. Mathematics, science, magic, everything has reached its highest level by the time they came in. And they were coming in for knowledge, by the way.
I'm very happy that you decided to write a book of such nature. I don't think a lot of people would expect a musician would go that route. And I'm really glad that you also have got pictures. You also you also have got, I think you've quoted a lot of references. Although you've gotten a lot of the information.
There's references. And I deliberately, as I say, wrote this book pictorially, meaning using pictures, so that the people shouldn't spend much time digging into words, but the pictures should tell you the story. And there's references, and there's probably about nearly 1,000 reference books in here. So once you read that, you can go and reference with the books that I read. So, besides me going there and seeing this thing personal, and I'll tell you where these things are found. So you can actually go to them and see these things.
And we've had a very interesting discussion or conversation before the cameras were on around me having dreadlocks. And then we started going into how royal African kings back in the day would grow their locks, etc.
Yeah, the first king actually who commissioned the first building ever on planet Earth. The real building, mortar buildings with bricks and stuff, and the real tomb, it's called the Step Pyramid of Saqqara, was King Zosa, or Josa, some of call him. He had huge locks, massive locks, and when I saw them, the statue of King Zosa is in London Museum, and you find some of them everywhere. And he had massive locks, and I said, "Wow!" And then once I started researching and all that, I see Mentuhotep also had massive locks, and I realized that, oh, by the way, the kings were actually the ones who had the locks, and you can see even the headgear they wear that covers the locks, some of them, and for certain reasons they're doing it that. But some of them, the locks would show. For instance, in the case of Zosa and Mentuhotep, they're actually in that book. You'll see the pictures in there.
That's incredible. And where do I buy the book?
Well, direct from me.
Okay.
As I've struggled to get it, and from my publisher, Lesedi House. That's where you can get the.
So, guys, I'm going to put the link in the description. You can just click the link. It takes you directly to how you can purchase the book. For those who are interested in the book, I'm also very interested. And by the way, guys, join and become a paying member. If you think we're giving you content that adds value to your life, then pay us every month so you keep our lights on, guys. I did mention that there were some people who were interested to come on board on the podcast and own a bit of the podcast and contribute in giving us resources and structure and a team and all of these different things to take us to go to the next level. We are still keeping the door open for future negotiations, but for now, we respectfully declined in a very humble way and said we would like to still grow this podcast on our own, and can it be owned by our paying monthly members. So I wanted to congratulate everyone who has joined to become a paying member. We are now currently sitting on 100 paying members, 103. So all of you paying members every month, thank you so much for keeping our lights on. If you can't afford, you're still a student, don't worry. You can still watch the content for free. Those who are paying is people who can afford it, and it's people who think they can add some value to us so that we can grow this platform. Now, let's get into the real meat of the conversation. I think the first thing I'd like to say is congratulations on your 50 years in the music industry.
Thanks a lot. Thanks.
5-0.
5-0.
What does that mean? I mean, I think when I hear the name Don Laka, you're not only an incredible jazz musician, but as an entrepreneur, you were one of the critical instrumental figures that played a big role in the start of the Kwaito movement, including even the Kalawa record label.
Yes.
So what does 50 years mean in your mind? I mean, you've been in the game.
You know, it took a while for me, you know, to when I realized that it's 50 years, and it takes time to really sink in. It hasn't really sunk in, because I realized, you know, that thinking backwards, in 1972, and I'll never forget that. It was around March when I first walked into the studios of Mavutela Records, which is owned by Gallo. You know, and as a 14-year-old back then, you know, it wasn't easy. It's not like today. There's social media, there's all that. There was nothing. For you to be discovered, you must be a very, very lucky person, that a talent scout should be in your area at some time or whatever. But I didn't wait for that. I went straight to look for where Gallo was, or the record companies. But Gallo was one of the big names. And I walked in and there, and not knowing anyone. I mean, there's a long story behind, but I wouldn't go back that much. But there's a story behind how I got there. I mean, but maybe I can tell you how I got there. My father gave me, I think it was 50 cents that time. And the friend of mine, and, you know, I and the friend of mine got into the train from Mamelodi into Joburg looking for Gallo records, which I saw on an album, which I had. So I knew the street that we were going to look for. But that time, I mean, there was no, I couldn't read maps. It was not important to read maps. So when you got off at a park station, we walked the whole, it was on a Saturday actually. We walked the whole, almost, I mean, up to Jeepy's Town looking for Gallo. We just passed it on the way.
Oh, Gallo used to be in Jeepy's Town?
No, it used to be in Hout and Kerk.
Oh, wow.
But we passed it because we didn't know the streets and we didn't know where we were getting to. So we walked the whole Joburg, I mean, on a Saturday afternoon. And then we were, you know, like seriously hungry now as young kids, you know. So we're sitting outside this building and we're having, you know, a meal now because we're tired, I mean, from walking almost the whole day looking for this place. Then walked, you know, after some time, when we finished, and this friend of mine and Sinky, and then he said, we looked at and we saw this huge cock, you know, the rooster. And he says, Gallo.
Just there.
Just there. So we looked, I said, it's Gallo. And it's Saturday afternoon, there's no one. Only a security guy was there. So he walks up to us and he speaks in Zulu. So then we explained, no, look, he said, no, people don't work here on Saturdays. You know?
Yeah.
You must come Monday. And who are you looking for? And I was looking for Bra Reinkwe, and Reinkwe was not even working at Gallo.
Yeah.
So I met Reinkwe at the festival in Mamelodi at HM Pitcher Stadium. It used to be a place for jazz that time. Then Monday I come in and walk in. I mean, I still get lost again, you know, coming to that place.
Yeah.
And I walk in at the back. You know, we were not allowed to go into the front. The front was reserved for white people back then. So we come in at an area where there's the cars come in, you know, parking lot, and there's an entrance that goes into Mavutela. And that day, I met so many people that were like icons, you know, Mavutela Queens, and Reinkwe. No, Reinkwe was not what is the producer of I have to remember these names. There's so many names.
Yeah.
Of Black Mamba. So then, and I met Ray Peary there. They were actually the backing band of it was not even Steamella. Steamella would appear
later,
more than 15 years after.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
They were a backing band of, they were called the Cannibals back then.
Okay.
Yeah. And then they played on my first record. So I was auditioned, by the way. So when I walk in, I had my 2 tapes, which I made. I didn't know I was doing production. I had 2 cassette tapes where I would play guitar and sing in this side and record that side, just like that, bouncing all over. The quality was horrible because the tapes were cheap stuff, I was given, those tapes. And they decided, no, they wanted to audition me. So I sat there with a guitar. I've never played an electric guitar in my life, by the way. I was used to acoustic guitar. So Ray gives me electric guitar to play. It was a shock, but I enjoyed playing electric guitar for the first time, and they liked what they were hearing. And Max Mangwan became a producer of Makona Zoke band, and within, I think on a Thursday that week, we made my first record. It was called In the West. It was a protest song, obviously, a political song, And I was given an acetate. It was called an acetate. After recording, they give you this thing that you play about 7 times and it's finished.
Yeah.
I remember taking it back home, and we had a blaupunkt. That's it.
Yeah.
So we had a blaupunkt at home, and I played it a few times, and I remember calling almost everyone in the street to come and listen to it. So that it shouldn't finish, because I would always count. Oh no, we left it 3 times now, 3 times, and then eventually it finished. But within a week, the record was out. So that's how I started 1972, and it continued on and on and on and on. Then I was playing guitar then, and a friend of mine who was our mentor at that time, his name is he's the late now. He used to gather us at his home and teach us to play guitar properly. He introduced me to jazz. So we would play, and most of the guys, some of them are overseas now. So the influence has been there.
So you've had the influences of that Kiba sound.
Yes.
Kiba music,
Absolutely.
as they would call it. Yeah. No, tell the story. Sorry for disturbing. I'm enjoying listening.
No, you must ask questions. There's too many things.
I just want to learn.
There's so much. In between. So, but I want you to direct me. I wasn't just say I will be here for the next week or so. So, but and I would listen to that, and I would really love the music that I was hearing. I was very fortunate to encounter that type of music at an early age, at an early stage. And there was the late Jeff Mpagati, who heard about the young musicians that were in the area. So he would gather us into his home, and he introduced us to new records that were coming out from the US, jazz records, would hear the Miles Davis and stuff. You grow up in Mamelodi, that stuff becomes natural. It becomes like the real thing, that the elders were playing. And he introduced us to that, and we'd spend, sometimes like weekends when we were not at school, Fridays, we'd spend a night at his home just listening to new records, just like that. And eventually, he got us some instruments. At the time, I was playing guitar and drums and stuff, and he got us instruments from the U.S. Embassy. And, I picked up a saxophone. And there was no saxophone tutors around us. So we'd walk from Mamelodi to Bavian Sports. If you know Mamelodi, those who were around that time. And there was no transport going that side. So being from Mamelodi, if you know where Moretele Park is,
yes,
actually, if you're on Moretele Park and you look east, on the mountain side there, you could actually see my house around there. So we would walk from there past Moretele Park, and there's a pathway that was carved by, when they were doing sort of a pipe that goes, I don't know what that pipe is for, that goes the other side to Bavian Sport. So we'd walk past there, probably walk at least 10 to 15 Ks to go to Bavian Sport, where there was a prison warder there, who I think was the captain or something. He was one of the first few black people in that area to have a bachelor's music and degree. So he would teach us saxophone, and would go there and walk backwards, tired, man. So that's how we enjoyed it. And I still have pictures actually walking across that pipe and going that side to go learn saxophone. That's why I got into learning a lot of instruments to play, in many instruments like harmonica, guitar, drums, and piano came later actually because I wanted to learn to play, to be a conductor. The weirdest thing is that I wanted to be a classical conductor.
From an early age, you knew
Yeah,
that, right?
yeah. And there weren't people teaching that. So I went to a place in Pretoria. There was a lady, English lady, who was teaching piano. So when I went there, she auditioned me playing guitar. I said, "No, you are so talented. I wish you can go and study at the Pretoria conservatoire." There was a conservatoire which was for whites only. So I didn't go there. One of my friends bought a piano at his home, and I went to learn to play piano. Because I was told that to be a classical conductor, you need to play piano. I don't know how true that was. Then I went back to this lady, and she said, "Okay, here's a letter. Go and meet Professor so-and-so, and then say, I recommend you to study there." When I got there, I was told, "Nope, you're of the wrong color." I never got deterred. I said, "Okay, wrong color. This color will show you that it can do things on its own." So I went back home, taught myself classical music and jazz properly. But Jeff would also get us tutors, jazz guys to come and teach us jazz. I remember there's a late brother, Bucks Hongo, who he brought from Cape Town to come and teach us jazz, And, we were taught jazz piano, harmony and stuff, And it went on and on. And I remember when Philip Taban came back from the US, where he made like headlines with headlines because he refused to play with Miles Davis.
Oh, is that what happened?
Yeah. He refused to play with Miles Davis because he said, no, they're going to steal his music.
And I also, speaking about Dr. Philip Taban, I also would like to give pay homage to Dr. Selokhalane as well, who I think he continued with the works after the passing of Dr. Philip Taban. And I think he's got a lot of knowledge, by the way. He also has got the works
did a PhD
of Dr.
and he quotes and he did a study on his music.
Yes, sir. Yeah. And we're looking forward to having you here, Dr. Selokhalane. But anyway, yes, sir.
Yeah. So when Brother Philip came back, he was scheduled for another tour. I think, I don't know for long, and he wanted to add a keyboard to his music, a piano. So naturally, in my melody, I was the only one now known to be playing piano. So he got me to play piano. So we went for rehearsal, two rehearsals. And I was just starting out as a pianist, Then the other day, I think it was on a Saturday. So I decided, let me go to rehearsal and I'll go in earlier and just to, brush up on the music. Because I wasn't, I was like very shaky, Just started on the piano and then playing with a mega star like that, And I walk in at the rehearsal and not, just a distance from the rehearsal. Then I hear this piano man. I said, now who's this?
I'm the only one who plays piano in Mamelodi.
Hey, when I walk in, can this dude is Becky Muselek?
Oh, wow.
So it was, and that's how I lost the job, by the way.
Yeah, it went to Mr. Beg himself.
It went to him. And you know what? Thanks, it did go to the right person. I always tell this story. I said I'm glad that he got that gig because he was far miles away from what I was at that time. I was just a beginner, or not even a year on the piano, and this guy was like something else. And I actually had to, before his passing, I met with him, was to spend time with him. And I told him the story. He laughed so much. But he was just a serious person. And he had a strange laugh, with like laugh and serious laugh and just like that. So, but it was fun that, we enjoyed that past,
You went on to become an acclaimed jazz musician in the country, very, very, very respected. But how does your um, um, involvement in Kwaito music begin? Where did you meet Bo Oskido? How did you get involved with this Kwaito music? Because one would think a jazz musician is far off from Kwaito music and what Kalawa became and what Kwaito music became.
You know, let me tell you something. And my musicians that I admire most would be, that actually I like to emulate their path. It's Miles Davis and Quincy Jones. And here in South Africa, it's Abdullah Ibrahim and Philip Taban. Miles changed the way music was perceived from jazz back then and continued to create genres until his death. Quincy Jones has done the same thing, as a trained classical musician and a jazz musician, but he moved to be involved in many genres of music. And his word is Quincy Jones. There's two types of music. There's good music and there's bad music. That's it. Doesn't matter what type of music you call it, classical music, jazz music, pop music, dance music, rap music, and say, listen, this is where you want to be. And besides following other people, like Miles and Abdullah, and if you look at these people I mentioned, all of them started their own genres of music, or they would be in the forefront of that type of music. And I've always wanted to be in the forefront of music, and became much easier for me after I left. Sakile, got into more pop music, worked with Alec Haudi, Sipho Mabuse, did arrangements for Sanko Mota, so many, string arrangements for that, working with all the types of musicians back then in the 80s, as a session musician. And at the height of all that, our band image was actually in the forefront of pushing also fashion. It was not just music, it was fashion and the type of music we played.
You were part of Image as well?
Yes, we started Image.
Some people called it Y-Mage.
Well, wow.
Image, yeah.
They call it
Okay.
Y-Mage, but if you look at the word Yvonne, it's not spelled. So that was when we signed the first international deal. So then, they decided, with the I, everything is like image, this, image, that. So now with the Y, it's a unique thing. So then it became unique, obviously. And we went on. That's where we met with Sello Twala, we call him Chico now. We met, when we started, when we were with Alec Khaudi's Umoja. Then we left Alec and to start Image. And I was with the band for many, many years, and I'm glad that most of the guys in there are awesome musicians. I mean, we were such a band, not just playing what you call bubblegum that time. We would delve into jazz, we'll delve into fusion jazz, which we loved most in that band, and rock and roll. And when I left South Africa later in the 80s, went to live in Germany, came back home, got a deal to go study production in the UK with Will Mowat, who at that time was producing Angelique Kidjo, James Brown, and Soul to Soul. And he mentored me in production, and I came back home. Then that's where the idea of connecting with DJs came, because I saw it there. So when I came here, fortunately, I met Oscar and Christos, and we formed Kalawa, so, as our name say, Katsaitis, Laka and Mlongwa. Look at that.
So Kalawa, so that's Chris Katsaitis Ka,
Yeah.
and then
Laka.
Don Laka, the La,
And Mlongwa,
and
the
then
W.
Mlongwa,
from-
the W from Oskido. So that's
That's
why.
it.
So that's where the
Kalawa.
Kalawa name came.
That's it.
Or were you guys forming it as a band in the beginning, or you
No,
were
no.
intentional that it was a company?
Intention was a company.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a company. I mean, that time there was nothing called Kwaito, by the way. And we pushed it. And the first album just went ballistic. when we did the second album, at that same time we were working on Tempe Life, that Bruce came.
Tebe.
Tebe. Then, the rest is history. And at that time, when all this was happening, I took advantage of the name of Don Laka name as a producer now. So I was sitting in the studio working, and a guy from SABC came in and called me and said, you know what, I need music for a TV program called Midday Breeze. And would you please provide me with some stuff? I said, oh, no, I can do it. When do you want it by? He says, no, today. I said, no.
Yeah.
Today. I'm busy and, I have to work it. He says, no. So I took out one of my dead tapes, which I recorded an album in the 80s, a jazz album. And that would be my first release in 1987 of quiet jazz now. It was called Destiny. So when the single came, when that music went out on TV, there was such a demand for it that I had to release the album. The album, I remember at Sony, the album before I got to Sony, it was rejected by many companies. And then when Lindelan was at Sony, said, listen, man, I'll give you a chance, but you'll have to do it under your own label. We'll sign you as a
imprint.
Independent. So I said, fine. Released the album. Within a month they went gold, 25,000 copies. Within 3 months it was platinum. So at the time, by the way, let me tell you, 1987, if you check, and going backwards, there was not even a single jazz record in South Africa recorded for many, many years. The last time we had jazz records was back in the 80s. I think it was Sakile and back then that was recording that. But there was nothing up there. The record labels would not touch anything that was jazz. That album sparked the jazz scene in South Africa. Destiny in 1997. And I went on to produce Hugh's album, Black to the Future. And Smongile released an album. So that's how the jazz scene started. But there's a story behind me and Hugh, which starts back in the 80s. So that's why I say you must lead me.
No, tell the story. Tell it.
The story starts.
The youngsters have to learn. Guys, we need to know where this thing that we are all doing now, that you guys are doing, especially young guys, even with the Amapiano, even just the younger guys who are just doing music. It's always important to learn and understand the history. So they never get this opportunity to hear you guys share the story, because then they'll see us or hear from us. But still, us, we're just a little part of history. We're also inspired by you guys.
Absolutely.
So it's always nice to then, for them now, they're saying, oh, this is where it comes from. Oh, this is where it comes from. Oh, this is where the elements come. So it's beautiful, Khabula. So don't be afraid to tell the stories, sir. There are no adverts that are coming. This is a podcast. My encounter with Brahu is the funniest one. It's 1980, I think, right at the beginning. Brahu has just moved to Botswana to set up in Botswana there. And we were rehearsing at Ian Fair's studios in downtown Joburg. And I get a call. Ian Fair comes and says, Brahu just moved in to Botswana. I said, Brahu? And Brahu was like, one of the top musicians South Africa has ever had. And here's this guy, and I wanted to meet, really meet, And if you look at 1980, I was a young kid. I was still a youth, I asked Ian Fair, I said, Ian, do you have Brahu's number? He says, yeah. So he gives me the number. I go to the tiki box section where we rehearse there. So, I put some coins, I dial. It goes to Botswana. It gets there, and I later, get that it was answered by Stuart Levine, the producer. And they said, with an American accent, Huey, Don't you want anything, sir, to drink?
Yeah, let me have hot water and lemon and honey.
Another one with honey. Sure. Yes, sir.
So and he says, okay, wait a minute. So he calls Brahu. Brahu doesn't know me. He has never heard of me. He said, "Say Melaiti." No, he said, "Who's this?" And I said, "No, this is Donald." I said, "Melaiti." So he started talking in Tosital, because I'm from Pretoria. So we started conversing in Tosital, I grew up with Tosital, so we converse in Tosital. And VSJ. So I tried to explain, and but he was such a nice person. So he just let me rattle along, He said, no. So I said, no, man, it would be nice to meet you. I like your music. So I quote all the old albums that he did. I'm sure some of them he can't even forgotten.
Yeah.
So, and I said, no, we'll meet one day. Don't worry. Because I said, and then eventually at the end I said, it would be so nice. I've written some music for you. I'd like to produce for you. I mean, that's the guts I had. Yeah. And that's fine. And we wouldn't meet until 10 years later when he came to South Africa. So I think it was 1991. I just came back from Europe. Then I left South Africa. And, when I came back, before I went, I just came back actually also from studying in the UK. So I met him at EMI Studios. We talk about how the phone call of 10 back, and he started laughing. He was with a group of young Americans that he brought to South Africa because the aim was to bring these Americans to teach us, production and stuff. And already, I was from there, But, that whole thing didn't work out very well. I think there's one guy who remained and still here also from back then. Then I mentioned again the production thing. And at the time now, he was working with some producer here, and they did an album which didn't do well. And it will take another 7 years again before he asked me to produce his album. And, and it was, for me, it was like, this is what I've been waiting for. And it did work. I would later on produce over 5 albums of his and 1 Grammy nomination album, Jabulani album. So where we did South African wedding songs, which I arranged. But his biggest record in South Africa has always been that I produced was an album called 60.
Now, you didn't just end up being a producer. You went on to do some great things. Now you're writing books. Obviously, You're a father and entrepreneur.
Yes.
And little did you know when you guys were starting Kalawa, it would become big. Or did you guys know how big Kwaito music would become, or the label Kalawa would become?
No. The intention was to create something unique, different, and big. But, I would put it like you. When you started MOFAYA, you knew that you want to create this product. And you have a vision that I want to make it big. And there are certain steps that one has to take to make it big. And there are huge challenges along the way. People don't know the challenges. They look at you as a hustle, but we don't have, it's a challenge that one has to go through. When we started that, we didn't have distribution. We had no knowledge of the industry, how the inside of the industry worked. When I recorded on my 8-track, no one was doing that. It was a shock. He was recording on an 8-track. We're recording on 24 tracks. I was doing things completely different from opposite what the industry was doing. But I knew that we will move from point A to point B. That one I knew, that we'll move from point A to point B. And once we remove all the hurdles, there was nothing going to stop us. The next hurdle was, how do we get our music onto radio? That was the most impossible one almost. Then we decided, how do we create the demand for our stuff? Then we started selling, we set up a guy at Carlton Center with a ghetto blaster to play our music. No one was doing that. Thanks. So no one was doing that. And what happened is, while we were doing that, the demand grew bigger and bigger because it was like underground marketing now.
Yeah, because I remember at some point I was a kid and Kwaito music was like underground music.
That's it.
And I think you guys were selling it from the boot of your car.
That's what we're doing. And we knew that no one is doing that. So the demand grew bigger until even radio stations started coming to us for material because we're hearing the music everywhere. So we didn't go out there to submit our music to radio stations. No, radio stations were coming to us.
Now you are becoming a part of another music that is becoming a part of youth culture.
It became, now we came in the right time because South Africa was changing after 1994. And not only the music that we made, but the lyrical content changed also because now we could sing anything we wanted to.
Oh, Gonje, before you guys couldn't
No,
say
you
a lot of
couldn't.
things.
No,
I
no.
even remember a track by the great Ntate Chico Twala, where I think the song went, "We miss you, Manelo, where are you?"
You had to hide.
So musicians, you guys were social commentators, but hiding the messages.
Yes, in between,
in
interweaving
between,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
But
the Manolo was meant to be Mandela.
yeah. So, but now things are changed now, and we were the first to take advantage of that. That's why that culture grew so massively. So yeah, I mean, and I've always wanted, even when we shifted from Kwaito to Afro pop, we're still doing Kwaito,
And I wanted to ask that, like the musical elements into Kwaito, which shaped it to become Afro pop now, because now
Yeah.
Kwaito was starting to become musical.
Yes.
It's like all you young guys out there, you remember how piano just now, you guys have been doing it a few years ago, and it's evolved into becoming something even more beautiful. It's more musical now.
Absolutely.
Gives it a
Yes.
certain texture and it takes it to the next level.
That's it. Well, I remember sitting and with Oscar, and I said, Oscar, you know what? We need to add new elements into this music. We need to grow it. And we were on a trip to, I was going to master something in the UK. Or I think it was, I don't know which album of mine, or it was when I was producing Soweto String Quartet, but I went to master an album. So, it was Hugh's album. Oscar decided, no, he's going with me there. He wants to see what mastering is like, because I used to master my stuff overseas before I learned mastering. I went back to school to do a diploma in mastering and in the US. So we had a guy play Hotel California. And I said, I was singing to Oscar. I said, what's this? I said, no, it's one of the songs by the Eagles. He says, man, can't we do this thing? So when we got back home, I sat and worked the music. And, we put that on Bongo Muffin's album. And we decided to add in the influence of people like Sbongile and for some of the groups. And Miriam Makeba. And that's why we did Makeba for the, that's it. So we started moving those elements in now. That's why we moved into Afropop slowly. But, it was a calculative move because we knew that we had to shift Kwaito and then moving it into a different level now. As you say, they're becoming even much more musical now. So that's how we kept shaping the music, continue shaping the music. And, I remember the first Amapiano record. I forgot those boys who actually my attorney sent me a tape. He says there's some young boys and they're playing music. They call it Amapiano because they like your music. And I listened to the music. I said, but there's no piano in it. Instead, we're playing organ.
Yeah, I'm calling it Amapiano.
And I said, but it's nice music. And unfortunately, I didn't get to do the album. And I think the first album they did went big. I forgot who those guys were. And I said, I knew that music was going to, because it was just a mix of quiet jazz and Kwaito happening. So it was that. It was instrumental back then when it started. It was based on quiet jazz, and it moved, and they started having the rappers in. It started, so now it morphed into what you call today the sound that it is now.
It's so beautiful. And I remember at some point during the Kwaito days, I remember there was Abo Vibe Lezinto. I remember LM
Yeah,
Jam.
yeah.
I think that
Yeah,
was
nothing to-
Mdu and Lindelani, nah?
Yeah.
That was Amapiano. That
Yes.
was Amapiano.
Dewey has always been in the forefront also of doing these things, and because his job at Chris Galakis was to redo this international stuff, and put a new vibe to it,
Now you are. Can you believe that now you are being called an icon? And time flies so quick. Now sometimes when I know I'm younger than you, but also I've got younger guys who are calling me a legend and OG, and I'm like,
No, but
I just started this thing.
yeah,
a
you
few
just
years
started,
ago.
but what you have achieved and what you have done, I mean, it's a reflection of our society, and if people see value in it, and they respect you for the value that you have brought into, it's a new culture. You're moving, I think we are all in this thing too. Everyone creates their own legacy in a different way.
Yes, sir.
And as I say, before we started this, I said I should be the one actually even interviewing you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Because your influence and I remember when you started MOFAYA, and I said, this dude is going someplace. I've never seen anyone. He reminds me of when we started Kalawa, how we moved the product. And he knows that point B is going to be reached, come what may. You were struggling to get your stuff into stores and struggling today, and you were actually talking about it. No, it's a struggle, but one day I'll get there. You moved on. The product has increased. It's no only MOFAYA, only the what is it, the what do you call it, the drink.
Yes, we've got different flavors.
Now you've got flavors. Now you've
moving
got
into cold drinks.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
then you move into that and that stuff. And I said, but this thing is possible. Now, for me, to get into the chili sauce and stuff,
And let's talk about it. Yes, that's what I wanted to talk about. The chili sauce. By the way, guys, I've just had it. I've just had breakfast with the chili sauce. This is the kwai pasty. It's a paste, and this is the kwai sauce. So it's the sauce and the paste. Yeah, let's talk about it. Laka Shandis. That's
Yeah.
the name of the brand.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jazz up your meals with kwai chili pasty. Okay. Okay.
So yeah, my wife and I, 2 years ago, I love chilies, but the problem with some of the chili stuff is that you put it on your food, it changes completely the taste of your food.
Yeah.
And I don't like that. It becomes like too hot and it's too chili. So and my wife we started growing chili at home. We bought the Tabasco chili and this chili, and they've got names.
Oh, it's homegrown.
Yeah, most of it is homegrown.
Okay.
But now, because we're getting into a market now, we started sourcing out some of the stuff.
Yes, sir.
So my wife started making chili, and I said, no, it's still hot, but can you, I don't know what you can do to. And she started experimenting, putting this and this and this and that, this and this. And the other day she said, I've got 7 ingredients already. I said, but it's getting there. But we're comparing it to some of the chilies we're tasting, and they were still not up to what I want. I didn't know what I wanted, but I needed something that would not change the taste of my food, but just to enhance it.
Yes, sir.
And eventually, she said, now I've got 17 ingredients. I don't know what I can add now. And she gave me a taste while from that making it. And I said, this is it. Now let's see how long it will last. So we put one bottle, that was in 2020, one bottle away. When we open it in this year, it was still as tasty as it started. No preservatives, nothing.
Beautiful. Congratulations.
So, and I said, I might have to take your route and lesson on how to get this into marketplaces and stuff. I said, well, you learn. There's no, end in learning.
Is it out? Is it in the market now?
We just put it, but you can only order from us directly. Now we do deliveries.
Nice. So, guys, I'll put a link in the description as well. So, 2 links. Link for the books and link for the chili sauce as well. So you guys can purchase. Those that want to purchase it in boxes for your restaurants.
Yes.
And those that want to probably even want to purchase it and go resell it as well.
Yes.
I think you can, have a chat with them. That's incredible. So congratulations.
No, thank you so much. And that's actually your influence back then. You can see how things work.
Yes, sir.
So it's not only us who influence, but the young ones can also influence too.
And what do you think of the current generation of musicians and just the music industry in general?
And I've always said, some few years ago, said I saw a lot of musicians going into institutions to learn music, production and stuff. And I knew South African music will reach a level, that we have never seen before. And I'm happy that it's getting there.
And it's even getting more international.
It's getting more international. The recognition, which was actually preserved for just a few, now, our music is getting everywhere now.
And I'm sure it makes you happy, no?
This is the most exciting period, for me. And well, I've because of age and stuff, but I still enjoy some nice groovy stuff, which I still do. By the way, I just released an album. Actually, it's a new single called "Playing My Piano," which is like a groovy stuff.
Yes, sir.
And but at the same time, I'm working on classical music. As I speak to you now, I might have my first premiere. It's just been commissioned. Where I wrote for an 80-piece orchestra.
Wow.
An orchestral suite, which is called In the Land of Madiba. It's got 6 movements for 80-piece orchestra. And the other one is my composition, which I dedicate to the flood victims of KZN. We Shall Rise Again, which is written for 80-piece orchestra plus 200 choir.
That's incredible work. And any plans of maybe touring? You can't just celebrate 50 years in the music industry, Dr. Don Laka, and not do anything, sir. Come on. Any plans, maybe?
Yeah, no, we will be doing 50 shows.
Nice.
To mark the 50 years, So we'll be starting around October to October next year.
Nice.
So we're going throughout all over the country. And then from the one we've done, we're going international.
And how did you do all of this while being a family man and raising your kids?
The nice thing is that I've the support should come from home.
Yes, sir.
And I must say I've got a very supportive wife, for over 33 years of marriage. It's been an incredible one. And, she's always been, she knows my space. Is very important. Like I understand her space is important too. So we never step into each other's toes, and I think that's the secret of me being, of the time that I've been given up to now, that I can pursue my career going forward. I mean, getting into new things. I mean, getting into classical music, it's completely different. It takes months to just work on one composition. It's not like pop music where I can just walk in. I have to write and notate and do stuff. And it's just a different world completely together with, different mindset, which one has to take breaks and going out, into where there's nature only, to get the influence of nature, reading and stories and stuff. Yeah. So it's a different space, which my wife is allowing me to do at this time.
Oh, that's incredible. So, and maybe before I let you go, do you still have shares in Kalawa, or did you sell some of your shares in the Kalawa?
I haven't sold any shares in Kalawa.
Excuse me?
I haven't sold shares in Kalawa. Otherwise, they would have removed my
But congratulations.
Yeah, though I mean, I don't partake that much because of new ventures that I'm doing now. But,
yes.
I'm happy that Oscar is still, steering the ship in the right way.
Yes, sir. So you've got that rich catalog for your children.
Yeah, absolutely.
That you still partly own.
Yes.
And you've got this amazing musical works that you've given us all these decades. We grew up watching your music, and we are here to celebrate you. We appreciate your humility. We appreciate the contributions that you've made in the arts and culture in the country. We appreciate just even steering that ship and giving a direction, the Kwaito music, because that was the soundtrack to my youth.
Yes.
And it was a soundtrack to a lot of people's youth out there, and especially Kalawa as the leading Kwaito label all the way till today. You played a very big part in raising a generation, or let me say generations.
Yes.
And for that, I just wanted to celebrate you, sir, and appreciate you and say, thank you for being you. And also even today, thank you for humbling yourself to just come through and spend an hour with us. It means a lot to to share all that wealth of knowledge with our audiences. Ra leboga.
No, Lebo thanks so much for having me, by the way.
Yeah, and congratulations. By the way, with this one as well, this is beautiful.
Yeah.
Don't stop writing.
No,
yes,
no.
I know you write the music.
I'm actually finishing a children's book. My publisher has been nagging me.
Nice.
I haven't been answering his calls because I said, no, I'm done. I'm just left with a few things just to complete the children's book.
Dr. Don Laka, may the good Lord bless you. And before I let you go, I'd like for you to, say your last words to your people over there on that camera over there.
Well, my last words is actually what shouldn't be the last words. It's a words of encouragement that follow what this man has done and is doing and learn from him like I'm learning from him and learn from the elders too. Thank you.
I'll continue to learn from you, sir. And please pass my regards to the family at home as well.
Absolutely. Too.
Actually, I shouldn't even be calling you a Grootman. We'll time Laka. Yeah, because I'm 43.
Okay.
So when I look, I'm like, no, old time Laka. I should actually give you the respect you deserve. I think we Grootman labo Oskido give me time again.
Okay.
Cool, it means so much to me. God bless you.
No, thank you so much, bro.
Ladies and gents, the great, the Dr. Don Laka. For those who don't know, you better ask your uncle, ask your mother, ask your brother, and go into the archives of South African music history. You'll understand that I'm sitting with the Quincy Jones of African music. God bless you, sir.
Thank you.
This is the Hustler's Corner.